The absolute most important thing to remember when it comes to watering your plants is that you can't give it too much. Yeah, that's right. Contrary to what you might have heard, it's impossible. Best practice is to grab your plant and drench that sucker until you run out of water.
Do it as many times as you like, and the plant will just lap it up and say, "Thank you very much."
Yes, you can even do this with snake plants and succulents.
I challenge you to try and give yours too much, although you might be there a while, mind you, so best not to take me up on that.
I get so many comments in my videos from worried plant parents fretting about how much water to give.
You hear about the horrors of overwatering from every corner of the internet, and sometimes it feels like you need a PhD in botany just to know what the correct thing to do is. But once you know the few basic things I'm sharing in this video, it's really not too taxing, and it's a video that's sponsored by Squarespace.
I was this exact same worried plant parent just a few years ago, but once I came to the realisation that overwatering is to do with frequency rather than quantity, my mind was at ease.
The crux of it is this: your plant hates having wet feet. In other words, it doesn't like to be sat in soggy soil all the time. This means if you're over generous with the watering can and water every 3 days, then you'll have a mutiny on your hands.
They'll down tools and make a mockery of you behind your back. Chances are the soil will constantly be wet, and this is the perfect breeding ground for rot to take hold of the roots. And it's not the water that does the damage. Plants can live in water after all, or hydroponically if you want to get fancy. No, it's actually the lack of oxygen. Soggy soil deprives the root ball of oxygen, and the roots start to turn black and mushy and die off. Not pretty. And this has a fancy name too: anaerobic soil. Look it up if you can be bothered. This is why plants can live in water. There's no soil messing things up, suffocating the roots of oxygen. Change the water every week and you're absolutely fine.
All of this is to say that you're probably worrying about the wrong thing. Your focus should be on determining when the soil is dry and ready for water, and not on how much you're giving. It's really that simple.
I say this all the time in my videos, to the point where most of you probably feel like you're part of some sort of cult, but water your plant when the soil is dry. Repeat after me: water when the soil is dry. Of course, there are tons of ways we can do this. Most people's favourite method is to give your little green friend a good fingering, so to speak, and if that's working for you, then have at it. I find my fingers to be untrustworthy at the best of times though, so I put my faith in something else. You can use a good old chopstick if you so desire, but I find that you're waiting around a bit too long for results. I mean, I can't be doing this for every plant. I've got 2 kids constantly nagging me for my attention.
Now I'm on a crusade to get every plant parent in the world to own a moisture meter because they're quick, easy and reliable. If you haven't got one yet, you're missing out. Plus, I get a few pennies for every purchase off my Amazon page. Go on, it's linked below.
Using a moisture meter means no more guessing, which equals no more fretting, which equals no more sleepless nights. Stick it in and only water when it reads dry. That applies to pretty much all plants too. Ficus, pothos, philodendron, monstera, succulents, you name it. Even calophyres need the soil to dry out somewhat. People say they like moist soil, but believe me, they hate wet soil more. I try and aim to water them when the meter is just going into the dry zone.
The school of thought seems to be that you need to do a background check on all your plants to know how much water they need, but honestly, this extra work isn't necessary. Always wait for the soil to dry out.
I can't think of too many exceptions to this apart from the bog-loving plants like the meat eaters of this world.
To labour the point just a little bit more, I'd stay clear of letting plant apps telling you when to water your little green friends.
I mean, how does it know how dry the soil of your little guy is? It's guessing and potentially leading you down the garden path.
Don't get me wrong, they can be useful for reminding you when to fertilise, etc. But for watering, I just use your own judgment. So instead of downloading the watering apps, why not download my troubleshooting handbook instead?
It goes over all the common plant problems and what to do about them, and most importantly, it's free. It's in the description, you lucky thing. Now, nailing your watering isn't only about the water. There are many more layers to the onion that we need to peel. Let me explain. But before I do, if you've been thinking about building a website, whether that's to showcase your work or sell products or finally get that side project off the ground, then today's video sponsor Squarespace is honestly the best place to start. I've been using Squarespace for a good couple of years now to run my own website, and it's been effortless from day one. You pick a beautiful template, drop in your photos and text, and within minutes it actually looks like you've hired a designer. You also get built-in analytics, email tools, and now AI to help you write and design even faster. So everything you need to grow online is right there in one place.
Head to squarespace.com to start your free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use code Sheffield for 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain.
Now, to stop your plants from dying a slow, torturous death from root rot, you need to keep them in good, free-draining soil. What on earth is free-draining soil, I hear you cry? Well, it's soil with lots of air pockets that allows excess water to flow freely out of the drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. The aim of the game with plant care is to not have excess water lingering around like a fart in an elevator.
A heavy soil, such as clay or even compost from the garden, is not free-draining. Water can't easily escape and stays in the soil for too long. And if there's roots in there, then it really is goodnight Vienna.
So what can we do to stop this nightmare from happening? You can either amend your own mix with additives like perlite and bark, or you can buy a decent ready-made mix from somewhere like Cybertanica.
Perlite really is plant gold. It's super lightweight, and when added to soil, makes it as fluffy and light as a freshly baked scone.
You can even stick your plants in just perlite, as long as you feed them correctly, which does sound somewhat appealing, doesn't it? Not just for the root health, but also for the fact that those pesky gnats can't make hay in perlite. I'll do anything to keep them out of my house. So a good base mix you can make for yourself would be 5 parts coconut coir, 2 parts perlite, and 1 part horticultural charcoal. Nice and simple. Coconut coir is inert and light as a feather, so much more suited to indoor plants than compost.
Even with the best, most free-draining soil in the world, you'll find that eventually it becomes pretty compressed over time.
Have a look at a plant you've had for a couple of years. Try and poke a stick in the soil. I bet it won't go in very easily. And don't worry, I'm not judging the fact that you haven't changed the soil in a while. We're all busy people. But this situation can spell trouble for your loved ones though. But don't worry too much, there's a couple of things you can do. First, I like to periodically poke a stick in and give everything a jiggle. Loosens everything up nicely and averts any compaction disasters.
And don't worry too much about breaking the roots. They can take a bit of damage here or there, and as long as you don't go mad, they'll regrow and survive.
And second is to bottom water. I know it's not for everyone, but I swear by it. My theory is that because water isn't being poured over the top of the soil, it doesn't compact as much. And in any case, bottom watering is a nice even way to get moisture to all areas of the root ball. Moisture gets wicked up through the soil slowly and no parts of the soil get missed, and this is key. The next time you water a thirsty plant and you think you've given it enough, try pulling its trousers down to see if there are any dry patches. You might be surprised. And if you're worried about how much to give, then here is my rule of thumb. Add water about a third of the way up the pot and be on your merry way.
If it drinks it up in 2 minutes, then you've got a very thirsty plant, so give it some more. If it doesn't drink it all straight away, then just check the following day and discard the excess. Your plant will be fine sat in a bit of excess water overnight. It's the prolonged pain of having wet feet that does the damage.
If you're really struggling with your soil and it seems like it's taken an eternity for it to dry out, then the best piece of advice I have for you is to either change your soil supplier or start using terracotta pots. The porous nature of terracotta means water wicks from all sides and dries everything out so much quicker.
I don't do this, you see, because my soil is decent, doesn't hold on to too much water. Plus, I've had problems with plants not getting enough H2O because of how porous they are. But if you're in trouble, then it's worth a look.
Terracotta pots do always come with drainage holes, and they are a plant guy or gal's best friend. Stick a plant in a pot without holes and you're condemning it to death, not unless you're a watering pro. You need that water to flow out of the bottom so it doesn't linger in the soil for too long and cause all those root rot problems I've already mentioned.
Check out my video where I water my plant every day for 30 days as proof. Things went much better than expected and I put it down to the drainage holes.
Another little pro tip is to use clear plastic pots. Makes it easier to see how dry or wet the soil is.
A slightly more niche concern some folks have is knowing what time of day is best to water.
After breakfast, second breakfast, 11s, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, supper, middle of the night. If this thought has crossed your mind or you're getting up at 5 AM to dote on them, then there's really no need. Any time is fine. This probably comes from the gardening world where it's usually best practice to water in the morning, so the plants are hydrated for the heat of the day and not get water sat on them overnight from evening watering. But that's not an issue for indoor plants. Water the soil and not the leaves, and do it any time and you're good to go.
You might also be concerned about watering in winter. I mean, surely they don't need as much water in the winter, right?
Well, yeah, they're not growing as much in most cases and therefore won't be transpiring etc. as much, but it's a moot point really.
Again, check the soil and water when it's dry. This mantra applies just as much in winter as it does in summer. So I find myself watering roughly once a week in high summer and maybe every 10 days in deep winter, but that might not be the same for you.
Now you might be sat there listening to all my nonsense thinking, what the bejesus even is root rot? Well, this is what healthy roots should look like, white, firm and plump. When you touch good roots, they don't disintegrate between your fingers. Rotting roots, on the other hand, are black and mushy and will smell god awful. You need to get that out of the pot, otherwise it will spread to any good roots you have left.
This is actually because there's bacteria eating away at the roots. And for more details about that, check out this video next.